Hello, everyone. Welcome back once again to Non Sequitur Nerds. Tonight, we're going to need you to make sure your web shooters have plenty of ammo and watch out for any stray symbiotes, because we're talking Spider-Man. Joining me, as always, is your friendly neighborhood Ian. How's it going, bud?
I'm not doing too bad. Obviously, my partner in crime and fellow web surfer and slinger,
Hey!
Tim, is with me tonight. So yes, as he said, we are talking Spider-Man, Marvel's
Spider-Man!
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man!
We should probably copyright or credit to them, or we're gonna get sued.
Right.
Um, anyway, Spider-Man, Marvel's eponymous wall
One of the
crawler.
poster
Yeah,
children of
one of the
Marvel.
poster children of Marvel, originally debuting in 1962 in Amazing Fantasy number 15. So Spider-Man was obviously the creation of the legendary Stan Lee and writer artist Steve Ditko.
Yep.
Um,
Two legends in their own rights.
Correct. This was back in the golden era of Marvel Comics. And if you think about it, really, 1962 at the debut was almost 60 years ago.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Where, it premiered in August of 1962, so we were
Oh,
at pretty much exactly 59 years since Spider-Man first
man.
debuted. So given that, I have a feeling that Marvel will probably do some kind of shout out to him next year.
Oh, I mean,
Something pretty big.
yeah, they'd absolutely
Um,
have to. I mean, and that just kind of goes to show like the longevity of that character. That like Spider-Man is one of the Marvel characters that, like, to my knowledge anyway, they've never canceled any of his publication. Like, 'cause, like a lot of the other superheroes and whatnot, there was always periods where like they may have dropped they dropped the comic for a couple months, or some characters years. Spider-Man, to my knowledge, he's been one of their breadwinners.
Yeah, I mean, he's always been a very successful character. I think, he represents something odd and, kind of he's also debuted, remember, as a teenager, right?
Yeah.
So teenagers in comic books weren't as common back then. Um, you know,
It was always
typically,
older characters because they didn't want to put, effectively kids into a lot of those like situations. Like, I mean, comics have dealt with, death, war, tragedies. I mean, like, look at Captain America as an example. I mean, literally, it was a character created, admittedly, as war propaganda, but still, he had to deal, in his debut era of, World War II and everything involved in that.
oh yeah,
They wouldn't
and
really. I
and
mean, they had Bucky debuted as a teenager, but like
correct. I
they
mean,
didn't really like putting younger characters in those situations as much, anyway.
correct. They were definitely they were typically relegated as, sidekicks.
Yeah,
Again, Bucky was a sidekick. Robin was a sidekick.
on the DC side of things, yeah.
Yeah, on the
I mean,
DC side of the
that's what
house,
teenagers were. Is they were the proteges. They were, the Batman or the Robin to whoever's Batman.
right. And nowadays, Batman's just like, well, another Robin died. Alfred, give me another one out of the closet.
Fetch a Robin from the closet. Well, I mean, and you're seeing, more teenage characters. Like, you've got, Kamala Khan is a
Mhm.
teenager. You've got Miles Morales, who is kind of going back to that teenage Spider-Man.
If we go back to, if we even go alternate universe, Ghost Spider or Spider Gwen.
Yep, as she was formerly known. Yep.
She was a teenager when she gained the powers. I think in the universe now she's a college student, I believe.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
See,
So
that's one of the weird things. Like, we should probably preface this by saying we are by no means comic book experts. We're just, two fanboys. If you go into all the different timelines and stuff like that, and for more information on timelines and multiverse, check out our prior episode about Loki, um, or our What If episode. Which, by the way, I want to shout out. Have you seen the newest episode of What If?
I just actually started the series tonight.
Okay,
So
well, when you get to episode 3, we kind of called that one.
okay.
So I just want to throw that out there for you. For those of you that haven't seen What If or Loki yet, absolutely watch them. They are a good primer into the multiverse, which, going back to Spider-Man, see how I looped that around there. The new Spider-Man trailer, as of the time of recording, debuted earlier this week. Ian and I have both watched it, I assume, multiple times at this point. I know I have.
Yeah, just kind of picking apart that trailer, trying to
Yeah.
glean any bits of information out of it that you
And
can. And if you're a person that is against watching trailers,
mm,
you might want to skip ahead a little bit here
yeah,
because we're probably going to go. We're obviously jumping from the beginning to the end
yeah.
right now, but we're going to kind of delve into Spider-Man in the MCU and his latest
Yep.
latest movie coming out here soon. Spider-Man
No Way Home.
No Way Home,
Yep.
which it it's funny to me that all of the Spider-Man movies have home in the titles at some
Right.
in
Well,
some way.
I like to think that, I mean, Spider-Man as a cinematic character is still a Sony-owned property, but they have been nice enough to work with Marvel, and by nice enough I mean the paychecks were fat, to allow Spider-Man to appear in the MCU as a Marvel character. I'd
Yep.
like to think that the home titles are kind of like a subtle nod of, hey, Spider-Man's home, guys. He's back with Marvel, even though he's not fully. But anyway, I digress. Um,
Yeah, and there's been I'm sure you've seen the rumors floating around the internet of Disney kicking around just buying Sony.
yeah,
Uh,
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they did, because I mean, apart from actually no, the Spider-Man family are the only Marvel properties that they. I mean, there's still that whole thing with was it Paramount and the Hulk, but Spider-Man's the only one that they don't fully own at this point, other than like I said,
yeah,
Hulk. Because I mean, you've got Spider-Man,
it's
Venom, all those associated characters are Sony's thing. They own Fox, which had all the X-Men and the various mutants. Blade. I Spider-Man's it. I mean, if they don't buy Sony, I could see them still forking out a bunch of cash just because they'll make their money back on having Spider-Man permanently MCU. They'll make their money back
oh yeah, I
easy.
mean the licensing, the
Oh
merchandising,
yeah, all the
the
toys, the comics, the personal inner thigh massager, all
well,
of that.
I mean, admittedly, so Sony themselves only have the movie rights to Spider-Man.
Yes.
Marvel still maintains comic book rights to the
Yep.
Spider-Man, and
But
also I
I
believe TV show rights too. I think
yes,
because
but
they are producing shows.
I think though that if it is merchandise based off the movies though, Sony, I believe, don't quote me, I believe Sony still gets a very large percentage of that if it's based on a cinematic property.
Right, that's fair. I mean, so the net of it though is that I just looked it up. Sony's net worth is estimated at about 45 billion US right now,
Okay, yeah.
and their sales are worth about 70 billion. So they continue to maintain. Yes,
Now is this Sony in general
Sony
or just
corporations.
okay, so that's
Sony corporations
everything.
network.
Okay.
Yes, that is
I didn't know if
everything.
that was just their film division or the entire company. If that's their entire company, I figured they'd be worth a lot more than that.
Kind of depends.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because you think that they've got their film division, they've got their electronics division, they have their PlayStation division, they've got, I mean, they like Sony's kind of got their hands all over the place. So it's kind of I figured it would be more like to the 7 to 800 billion. But I mean,
Well, I mean, yeah, it kind of depends. I mean, right now Disney is listed on the stock market. Their market cap is worth 350 billion.
really,
Uh huh.
that is oddly well. I mean, then again, like okay, I know we're getting into stocks here, which I can hear Reddit.
Stonks.
Do you smell stocks? Um,
Stonks.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, I bought a bunch of Disney stocks when everything tanked in 2020 because like Disney had to close all their parks. So like, I imagine that number is low because their parks still have not really recovered from being shut down all of last year.
Well, that
Effectively,
was actually a resurgence. That's their resurgence number.
really.
'Cause their market cap was actually down almost half of that earlier this year. Uh, which, if you think about all the money in the world, uh,
300 billion.
150 billion dollars versus 350 billion dollars.
Right.
At that point you're just trying to figure out. It's like, oh well, I guess I'm gonna have to shut down the Scrooge McDuck bin in Kabul or something.
Right. Or cancel Ducktales.
Woo!
Anyway, so getting back to Spider-Man though, Yeah, we are, like Ian said, going to be talking about the new Far From Home trailer. I'm sure he and I have not talked about our speculations yet, but I know we're going to get pretty heavy into that. So if you haven't seen the trailer yet, definitely go out and watch it. We'll catch you in a future episode, or we'll catch you back on this one, hopefully. But yeah, so Spider-Man. As far as the MCU goes, like he first appeared in Civil War, and it was, from what I've read, it was very much a last minute, like down to the wire thing to get that to happen. And it was very brief. He was just in the airport fight scene. But I do like the fact that in the first MCU Spider-Man movie, um, Homecoming, they do reference that, and you see that fight from Peter's perspective, which is kind of a nice. It's Marvel doing more of that world building of tying in that yes, these events they do affect one another. All of our movies are all interconnected. So I thought that was a nice little touch that you kind of got to see, Peter recording on his phone, guys, guess where I am, and getting all hyped about it, because they are very much going back to the teenage Spider-Man, which, don't get me wrong, the prior two Spider-Man movie franchises, I enjoyed both of them. They were good as separate things. There were things I liked about each, there were things I didn't like about each. But I like the fact that we are getting a younger Spider-Man who seems to be staying as younger Spider-Man. Like in the first Spider-Man series, he was in high school, but they kind of moved past that really quickly. They moved to graduation, all that. This Spider-Man is still very much a high schooler. I mean, technically, he's been in high school for like 8 years at this point because of the snap and everything, the blip, the blip. But I like that because we're getting all the other mainline Avengers characters are all older characters. They're all
Right.
Long out of college even. So it's nice to kind of see that more grounded character, and he's more of the everyman of this group. Because I mean, there's literal gods in the Avengers. But it's nice to see somebody who, like, his focus is just, on a small part of New York. That's his stomping grounds. He's not pulling an Iron Man and going all around the world stopping wars. He's not pulling, a full of Avengers ensemble, and I mean, granted, he did in the last two Infinity War and Endgame. He did help literally save the universe. But apart from that, he's very much a grounded character, which I think is one of the reasons I like Spider-Man as a character. Because while it is cool to see, like the Guardians of the Galaxy going out and stopping, planet, destroying warlords, it is nice to have somebody who is just as, willing to stop, an overpowered supervillain as he is to help a cat out of a tree. He is literally your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And I like that they're going back to his roots for the MCU version of it.
Yeah, and Spider-Man's always been part of his character quirks, his character traits is he's talkative. He's
that might be another reason I like him.
He throws quips. He makes fun of his rogues gallery. Mm-hmm. He's really engaged in that way. Just kind of like Deadpool's the merc with the mouth.
Yep.
Spider-Man is very much in that same vein.
Yep.
And the Tom Holland version of Spider-Man, I feel, is more awkward teenager. Like, just doesn't know when, like, just lacks the capability to shut up.
Yeah. He hasn't learned he hasn't learned his quippiness yet.
I think he still has his quips. He just tends to ramble and whatnot, which is, as you see in the MCU, the characters frequently just like interrupt him or stop it, or just
hang on a second, kid. The adults are talking.
Right. Type stuff. So, he's still kind of coming into it, but it's definitely a nod to that character trait. Like his constant chatter.
Mm-hmm.
The older Spider-Man or Spider-Men or, some of the other Spider-Men are definitely more direct in their quips. Like they're more, like they're definitely like slinging insults purposely rather than just chattering on.
Yep.
So, there's some obvious character traits, and I feel like they did a good job of really kind of grounding that character, like you said, in the MCU.
Yeah.
So he's a fun character. He's an engaging character. I've enjoyed what they've really done with this universe's version of Spider-Man.
Oh, absolutely,
with the treatment of Mary Jane. MJ, sorry.
Yep.
She's not the redheaded bombshell that she's always been in the
Right,
comic. You know,
but
she's a
but but I
teenager.
I, I like the way that they're doing this version of MJ though, and Zendaya has done a phenomenal job of making that character, taking a familiar character and kind of flipping it. I mean, so
Yeah,
like kudos to her, kudos to all the writers, the directors. They've done a really good job of giving us something familiar but making it new. You know, so it's not the
yeah.
same thing we're seeing over and over.
Well, the same thing could be said about Aunt May.
Marissa Tomei, yeah.
Right. I mean, typically when you think of Aunt May, you think of an older
Yeah.
lady,
Mhm.
a grandmotherly type, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
not not Marissa
Yeah.
Tomei.
Yeah.
So,
Which I mean, it's kind of funny. I saw when the Homecoming first came out. I remember I saw a meme that was it showed the Spider-Man actors getting progressively younger in each one, and then it showed Aunt May getting progressively younger in each one. Then it said
right.
next reboot, and it just showed a baby in a Spider-Man mask. And then it was, I think it was like a picture of the Olsen twins from Full House as Aunt May. I'm like, that's not too far off. But I do like it because, yeah, Aunt May has traditionally been, like you said, an elderly woman, more grandmotherly. I think it was which Spider-Man cartoon was it? I don't remember, but there was one where Aunt May, like she was maybe at her most in her 50s. So I mean, she had the distinguished silver hair of an older woman, but like would go to like yoga classes and tai chi and would like volunteer in like community outreach things. So she was still very youthful, but she still had that kind of elderly, world wizened sense about her. I mean, even Spider Verse's Aunt May still, was the same kind of thing. Is she had the wisdom that comes with age, but still had the tenacity of somebody 30 years her younger. And I'm wondering how much of that influenced, or how much of that is influenced by the MCU Spider-Man's Aunt May, and how much of that is just kind of them updating the character across the board.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at Into the Spider Verses, I mean, they're really cast of characters, right? You know, we have
Oh yeah.
Spider-Man from multiple different universes here. You know, that universe's Aunt May is not the Aunt May from the comic book universe. That
Yep.
it's a different universe. So, um,
It's technically the
it
Aunt May from the closest would be the Ultimate storyline, which is where Miles Morales got his debut, was in the Ultimates line.
right,
Yep.
right. So they're that Aunt May it could draw from multiple different, threads. They could. I don't think they've actually defined what universe that one is.
I would have to look it up. You would be surprised. There's alternate versions of characters that made like one appearance in a single panel of a comic in the 70s. That if you look it up, it's definitively this universe.
Yeah, Ghost Spider has her own universe, which she's now connected to the rest of the universes
Yep. Well,
thanks to
as is Miles. Yeah.
right, as is Miles. I mean, thanks to um, Madam Web, I think.
It got real. Marvel got really convoluted there for a while when they were trying to go. All right, we're canceling this line, but we like these characters, so we're gonna bring them. We're gonna put them over here for right now. But then we're gonna take these characters that are the main line that we don't like. We're gonna put them over here right now. Now we're gonna smash all of this other stuff all together, and it was weird. Marvel, like, some of their stuff is incredibly, I don't want to say hard to follow, but convoluted to follow. But in the end, they seem to have a really good payoff. As opposed to DC's kind of world bending stuff, which everything's gone, but now it's back because it was never gone. But it was gone, but it isn't gone. But now it's here.
I mean, you would know more about that than I do. I know that Flashpoint was kind of considered a turning point in their comics.
Yeah.
Um,
I could do a whole episode myself ranting about Flashpoint and how things went there, but we're here to talk about the Man of Spiders. Which, fun fact, there is an alternate universe of Spider-Man that is literally a man made of spiders. It is a group of sentient spiders that all have a hive mind and think that they are Peter Parker. It's really weird because like it can still talk, but it's literally a bunch of spiders in a Spider-Man suit. It's the weirdest thing ever. But
Huh.
the Spider-Verse, had a comic series. If we're going to be talking about that now, where they introduced a lot of different Spider-Men in that. I mean, there's even been like spin-offs and follow-ups to that dealing with the multiversal spiders, the spider totems as they were. A lot of really interesting characters that like some of them you only see for a few panels, and they give you like a super brief. This is who this person is what universe they're from, blah. Some of them like you see them in panels, and then that's it. You have no idea who they are, where they came from, any of that. But
Well, I mean, yeah.
good.
I mean, look at some of the characters from Into the Spider Verse. You've got Spider-Man Noir.
Who is amazing, by the way.
Yes, Nicolas Cage.
Wait, that was Nick Cage voiced him?
Yeah, didn't you know that?
No, oh my god, no wonder I loved him. I love Nick Cage. We've talked about this. How did I not know that was Nick Cage? He's amazing.
Yeah, go back and watch it. Go back and watch
I'm going to now.
Yeah, it's Nicolas Cage.
He was my favorite character in that.
Then you have, Peter Porker or, Spider-Ham.
Spider-Ham.
Spider-Pig. Yeah, Spider-Ham.
Spider-Pig is a different character.
Yeah, sorry, Spider.
No,
yeah,
wait, that's owned by Disney now, so we can talk about him.
Yes, exactly. So, oh God, is Plopper now part of the Spider-Verse?
Okay. Technically, because like you've seen all Loki, there was a variant of Loki that appeared on a one-shot on Simpsons. So technically, there is a Marvel universe where at least the Asgardians are in the same universe as the Simpsons. If you want to get really out there on this whole multiverse thing.
True. Let's see who. I mean, obviously, there's Miles. There's Spider-Gwen. There's Peter B. Parker.
Yep.
There's May Parker.
Other Peter Parker.
Other Peter Parker.
Yep.
The blonde-haired, blue-eyed Peter Parker.
Yep.
So I mean, that's just covering some of them
Yeah.
from Into the Spider-Verse. I mean, there's so many, as Tim said. There's a sentient Spider-Man. Then there's Man Spider,
Yep.
which is technically Peter.
there's two different Man Spiders. There's one that was Peter when he like over mutated into a spider. There's another universe I was just reading on it about a week ago actually, where it's that universe's version of Spider-Man, not named Peter Parker, but same thing except he almost immediately mutated into the spider human form, but literally became a spider. Like he was eating and killing people. He laid a bunch of eggs through a spider bite in that universe's version of Mary Jane in her neck. Like it was a very, very dark version of Spider-Man. That character died. Yeah, that character died off really quick. Whatever the storyline was, he died pretty quick. But it was setting up the big bad for that. So I'm kind of glad they started off killing that one because that's the stuff of nightmares right there. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I mean, so there's obviously, and then there's Spider people that aren't technically related to Spider-Man.
Yeah,
There's Spider-Woman. There's
all four
Silk.
of them.
Well, yeah, there's Silk. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones now.
I mean, there's his
Scarlet Spider.
Spider.
The Scarlet Spider technically, yeah.
It technically is Peter,
clone.
but isn't. I mean, there's Mayday Parker, who was one of his daughters in an alternate future comic. There's Spider Boy from the Amalgam comics, which we will never see that character again, sadly. A fusion of Superboy and Spider-Man. Man, I love the Amalgam comics. It's a shame Marvel and DC can't play nice, because like those sold really well.
Yeah.
Piss poor writing, but they sold really well.
They were fun, right? Because
you had fun.
You had characters like Super Soldier, which the two Boy Scouts of the universe of the respective universe.
I mean, you had Dark Claw. Yep. Dark Claw Wolverine. Dark Claw was too edgelord for me. I'll be honest. I'm Batman with knives. Hey, Batman.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it's. I mean, to kind of round it all out, I mean, it really does speak to the popularity of the character. That like literally they could go, all right, well let's make Spider-Man have blue skin and call him something different, and people will buy it. People will obsess over this new Spider-Man.
Well, I mean, look at what they did with the symbiote. I mean, they did Black Suit Spider-Man.
Yep.
And the symbiote itself then spawned one of Spider-Man's, actually a few of Spider-Man's most iconic, antagonists, who eventually become kind of anti-hero well, one of them anyway.
Yeah.
Kind of become anti-hero protagonists, which then morphs into other things. Of course I'm referring to Venom, who's was
who
this
also has a
massive,
new movie coming up.
correct. Venom. Then he spawned his own multiple characters. There was the Scorpion version of, or the Mac Gargan, sorry,
Yep.
version of Venom. There was Agent Venom.
Which I liked Agent Venom. I thought that was a really good take on the character, and I liked what they did with him. Plus, since he went out with the Guardians of the Galaxy for a while, they did a whole lot of character building for Venom and giving us more of who the symbiotes are, where they came from, what their motivations are, which honestly led into the introduction of one of, in my opinion, the best Marvel villains in recent history, which was, oh my god, I forgot his name, Null, the god of the symbiotes, which tied into Thor, which it's going to be interesting because he tied into a Thor character called Gore the God Butcher, who Christian Bale has been confirmed to be playing in the next Thor movie. The weapon that he uses in the comics is a symbiote sword that was made by Null, the god of the symbiotes. So I'm wondering, I mean, it's not, you could literally make that weapon be made by anybody else, change its story, and it wouldn't affect who Gore the God Butcher is. But there's going to be fans like me who go, I know where that thing came from.
Well, I mean, it'll be interesting to see, and realize we're kind of dovetailing a little bit here, but it'll be interesting to see what happens within the next Venom movie, because obviously in the next Venom movie they introduce Carnage, Cletus Cassidy, played by
Woody Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson.
Yep.
Yes. Apparently it's just a memory night tonight.
I know. We're like batting 0 tonight.
Right. Cletus Cassidy, Carnage. Obviously one of the more unhinged enemies, and depending on the comic and the media, even more unhinged than you might think of. Like there's some comics that he's almost like a trickster, type. He's still unhinged and insane, but it's more fun. Well, fun. And then there's
other
others.
Times it's evil shenanigans.
Right, and then there's other times that he turns his arm into a blade and just bifurcates by people.
Yeah, I mean,
and then
Cletus Cassidy he's a murderer. I mean, he's a psychopath.
He's a psychotic serial killer.
Yeah.
So obviously, having a symbiote,
you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah.
But I mean, and even other villains. I mean, you've gotten Doc Ock, you've gotten the Green Goblin, and all the variations of that.
All right, let me ask you this.
Yes.
Who, in your opinion, we're going to go to this opinion time. Mm-hmm. Who is Spider-Man's most iconic villain? Like his true nemesis. When you think Spider-Man, who do you envision him fighting?
Honestly, Doc Ock. Like, okay. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think Venom is a fantastic character, but Venom is a character who we've seen, stand against countless other heroes. Doc Ock has always primarily been a Spider-Man villain. And
he was also Spider-Man for a while.
Yes, which I thought was a phenomenal arc, actually. To me, Doc Ock is to Spider-Man what Joker is to Batman. Yes, Joker and Doc Ock can stand on their own and do other stuff with other heroes. But at the end of the day, who do they go back to? They're faithful to their respective heroes.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, because again, I do like Venom. I mean, I like almost all of Spider-Man's rogue gallery. He has, even though like 95% of them are all animal man or animal woman or animal person or just animal, which I think is kind of fitting for a character who's also based on an animal. But Doc Ock, I think for me is the iconic Spider-Man villain. What about you? Like when you think Spider-Man, what villain comes to your mind?
For me, it's Green Goblin.
See,
And
that was a close second for me.
Green Goblins, and the reason I say Green Goblin is because of the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie with Willem Dafoe playing, uh, playing as Green Goblin. Because Willem Dafoe, I'm sorry, is a
Oh my god.
perfect Norman
Yes.
Osborn. The
Yes.
dude can do crazy, and he can do subtle crazy too.
Yes. Oh, I mean, like you look at any movie he's in where he plays that kind of character, and he absolutely frickin' nails it.
Yeah, I mean, he was such a perfect Norman Osborn slash Green Goblin. Like you even when someone imagines Green Goblin nowadays, I hear Willem Dafoe's voice
Right.
whenever someone does Green Goblin. That's who I hear in my head canon. Like when I'm reading a comic book, I hear Willem Dafoe's
Yeah,
voice.
I will give you that. But I will say, like Alfred Molina played a really good Doc Ock.
No, he did. He did a fantastic job at Doc Ock. I'm was really happy with his performance. And before we get too much further into that,
Yep.
um, actually, Spider-Man's first villain was the Chameleon.
Oh yeah. Yep. Who like?
Yep.
I mean, he's a neat character, but like he's kind of a one trick pony. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, so he was the first, and then followed by the Vulture, Adrian
okay.
Toomes,
Yep. Which I mean,
who
like
again
Vulture has changed quite a bit over the years, but yeah, I like what they did with him in the MCU. That was a good debut
the
for
original
him.
The original Vulture is kind of, Adrian Toome's kind of like this old man, like grouchy old dude, like just
Right.
not really all that hangs around with birds, like not really.
Why do I feel
He's
like that's going to be Kevin in a couple years?
he's gonna wind up. The Vulture was
I
basically
am the pigeon.
right. The Vulture was basically just one like heavyweight championship away from being Mike Tyson.
I mean,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
I don't like you, Spider-Man. I'm gonna hurt you.
Although, like, okay, speaking of head injuries, I was actually I saw a thing recently about Doc Ock, where like he like in I don't remember which comic line it was, but like he's effectively like the arms are the only thing moving him around. He's effectively just he's a living corpse at this point, and he
Ew.
explains that it's because I have literally been spending the last decades of my life finding a man who could throw a car with one hand with ease, who is punching me. I don't have superpowers. I have robot arms.
Right.
And like it even shows like scenes like they took and redrew from older comics of Spider-Man hitting him, and they do like the Mortal Kombat X-ray thing, and you see like bones in his head breaking, you see hemorrhaging on his brain, and it makes sense that like yes, Spider-Man knows how to pull a punch, but even that's like saying, oh yeah, Muhammad Ali knows how to pull a punch. Would you still get hit by Muhammad Ali if he was saying he was going to pull his punch, Ian, repeatedly for decades?
No thanks.
Exactly.
I mean, admittedly,
If I had robot arms, maybe.
playing devil's advocate here, admittedly, he kind of keeps coming back.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like it's not like he's stopping.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
it's like, ow, that really hurt. I'm gonna go home. No, it's damn you, Spider-Man. I'll be back next week.
Exactly. Same Spidey time, same Spidey channel.
Right.
But
So yeah, kind of jump back to Adrian Toomes. We were just talking about. We had mentioned, really liking the way they took him in in the MCU, because he's not this doofy kind
old
of just
guy.
old
Yeah.
crotchety dude. Like he's smart.
Yes. Well, I
Like
mean,
he's
in
smart
the
and
comics,
calculating.
yeah, in the comics, I mean, he wasn't a dumb guy. I mean, he actually, I don't remember if he developed it or if he stole the tech, but like originally that was his whole thing, is he had to steal life force from people like a vulture. Um to keep himself, alive, and then they later evolved that into, well, he had terminal cancer, and stealing his life force was the only thing keeping him alive. And I don't know if they ever moved away from that, but it was nice seeing a refreshed look where it was he had I mean, not to say cancer's not a good motivator, but like he had a more clear cut motivation of he had this very well paying job of cleaning up stuff. His demolition, construction, whatever you want to call it, crew. They had a good thing going, and then damage control, which is the MCU's superhero cleanup crew, stepped in and went, "Oh yeah, you don't have jurisdiction, get out." Well, there goes his entire livelihood. That's his only skill set. He doesn't have anything. He doesn't know what to do beyond that. But he's smart. He's smart. And he knows how. He knew how to run a business. He knew how to make plans. He knew how to plan ahead on stuff. So it was It didn't seem like too far fetched for a superhero movie. It didn't seem too far fetched for him to make that leap into, this is all I know how to do. This is all these guys know how to do. Let's just keep doing that on the side. And let's sell this stuff while we're at it.
Right. I did also enjoy in that movie the inclusion of the Shockers gloves.
Yep.
That I thought was a nice nod.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So kind of
I had forgotten about the Shocker glove. Well, and then there was technically 2 Shockers in that movie.
Well, yes.
Yep.
Technically. Yeah. So jumping back a little bit to Doc Ock, a fantastic villain has followed Spider-Man throughout his entire career, dogging him every step of the way, including into the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yes.
Not just as a brand new character either, as Alfred Molina.
Yep. Who in an interview, and I'm not sure how much trouble he got in for this, but he said in an interview, no, this is the same Doc Ock from the Sam Raimi films. Which, I also want to point out a thing I just thought about. Technically, not Doc Ock, but his arms have appeared in every single version of Spider-Man, because he was, a villain in the Sam Raimi trilogy. The arms appeared in a scene in The Amazing Spider-Man, and now we're getting the reprisal of that character. But we've also gotten a Green Goblin, which is another fun little thing that popped up in the trailer. Green Goblin has also been in, at least in some version, in every Spider-Man trilogy or Spider-Man movie at this point. Which another fun thing. We're obviously going to talk about the trailer at this point. We do see Alfred Molina as Doc Ock.
Hello, Peter.
Hello, Peter. Reappearing in this trailer. Also in the trailer, you see one of Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin's pumpkin bombs, and you distinctly hear his laugh in the trailer.
Yes.
So if Willem Dafoe's not in it, his Green Goblin at least is. But I feel like at this point, they would be doing the fans a disservice by clearly showing that exact pumpkin bomb. If we don't see Willem Dafoe's face in this, or at the very least have his voice dubbed over a different guy in the costume, they would be doing the fans a severe disservice.
It's Kid Goblin.
Not the Amazing Spider-Man version, right? Because that was horrid. I'll even take James Franco's Harry Osborn version of Goblin over that. And James Franco's kind of an issue right now. Yeah, we're not going to get into him.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because we know for sure that we're getting Doc Ock. We know for sure we're getting a Green Goblin. We are more than likely getting an Electro because of what Jamie Foxx said and the fact that there's so much electricity going on in that trailer.
Yeah.
I feel like we're also going to get Sandman because there were a lot of scenes in that where there was a lot of really heavy dust and stuff just blowing around. And
you think it's going to be Thomas Hayden Church reprisal?
I would really like it to be, especially since they're getting so many other actors that played these roles previously back. I would really like it. I liked his character. I liked his story arc. That he wasn't really a bad guy. He was just doing bad things, but for a good reason. He was doing it to get the money to help out his daughter through her illness. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, as a parent, I can sympathize with that, But I mean, let's see. Like I said, Doc Ock, Green Goblin, Electro, possibly Sandman. That's 4 members of a Sinister Six lineup. Now, people have said that in one of the scenes you do see Lizard in a cage, but it's very dark. People have enhanced the image a little bit, and it looks like Lizard. So I mean, there's maybe I'll give that one a maybe on a 5. Who's our 6th Sinister Six member? I mean, there is technically still a Shocker running around. I mean, and he was on one of the Sinister Six lineups, if memory serves correct.
Yeah.
But I mean, we also have Vulture still running around.
Yeah, Vulture's still running around. You know, so if we look at the founding members of the Sinister Sticks, come sailing away.
I would have gone with Mr. Roboto, but
Domo arigato, Mr. Robot Arms. So the founding members were Doc Ock,
Yep.
Electro, Kraven the Hunter.
Yep, which Kraven is getting a movie, but I mean that's Sony's Spider.
Right.
Which they officially gave it a name. I think it's the Sony Spider-Man universe is what they're calling it. For like Venom, Kraven, and Batman.
Right.
Morbius.
Oh.
You're like Batman.
Yeah. So then we have Mysterio, Sandman, and Vulture.
Okay, now there's a lot of fans going around saying that Morbius might not be dead. But
Morbius.
Or
Mysterio?
Mysterio, thank you. Mysterio might not be dead. Because I mean, again, that's his whole thing. He is the master of illusion. In the comics, he has faked his own death very believably multiple times.
Yeah.
So I like Jake Gyllenhaal's presentation of Mysterio. I thought that was a phenomenal updated take on it. I would love to see him come back. Because if you think about it, he got the ball rolling on the world knows that Spider-Man is Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And Mysterio, like, he has always been a character, he plays the long game. If that video was only supposed to be sent out at the time of his death, what does he stand to gain from it other than revenge that he will never know if it actually happened?
This is true.
I would like to see Mysterio come back and kind of, be the one to rally the troops around this. But we do have, as the trailer shows off, we do have kind of a whole other thing to deal with. Peter is having to deal with the fact that everybody knows he's Spider-Man. The authorities think he killed Mysterio. Everybody at school is treating him very differently because they all know he's Spider-Man. The community is torn. There's people that think that, like Jake Jonah Jameson says, that he's a menace. There's others like, no, he's done good. But now everybody knows who to point the finger at. It's that kid. So he goes to the one and only Doctor Strange and says, hey, you're a magic guy. Can you make everybody just forget that I'm Spider-Man? And Doctor Strange performs a spell, and Peter's like, wait. Well, MJ has to know. I mean, because, like, we've got this whole thing going on, and, Ned's my best friend, and Aunt May, she has to know because, otherwise she'll worry even more about me sneaking out all the time. And doing all this interferes with Strange's spell, which you see, the whole multiverse thing rip open, which I think you and I said it pretty early on. This whole phase of the MCU is going to be about multiverses, timelines, things like that. And they are definitely continuing that trend for everything except for Falcon and Winter Soldier. They fixed a boat. But you see the multiverse open up, and that's when, Strange, you hear his voiceover in the trailer of him telling Peter, be careful what you wish for. The multiverse is something that we don't really know a whole lot about at this point. Which brings me back to my point that I think I made last week or 2 weeks ago about, for somebody that draws all his powers from areas of the multiverse, he seems very ill-informed about it. I mean, this is still a not young in the sense of age, but a young in the sense of being in the line of duty. This is still a young Doctor Strange. He's not... Well, the
other component of Doctor Strange, and again detailing non sequitur. The other component of Doctor Strange, though, is in the comic books he learns from the Ancient One.
Yes,
the Ancient One isn't dead. He exists in a mirror or something like that.
It's Doctor Strange. I mean, who knows?
Yeah. So the Ancient One still exists in this universe. The Ancient One is dead.
Yeah,
like
definitively.
She's dead.
Yeah.
So there's just no, like, he's figuring this stuff out as he goes.
Which again, kudos to MCU because that's a different take. I mean, if you look at Doctor Strange back in like the golden age of comics, he was so OP. I mean, like, he was the definition of a Deus Ex Machina.
I mean, he's just the, the MCU, or not the MCU, but the Marvel. He's basically a god.
Yeah. So I mean,
you shoot him, you hit him with a sniper rifle from 1,500 meters, and yeah, he'll be dead.
Oh no, there's a spell for that.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, back in the day, that's pretty much. Oh, I know the spell that will. I'm dead, but my spirit is still alive, so I can still cast a spell while I'm a spirit to rewind time, step myself 1 foot to the right as the bullet launches, and send him to the pits of Calcutta or whatever. I don't know. It's
Calcutta, where the monastery was that they. Okay. Tim's trying to shush me.
By the hoary host of Hagathian, we're talking about Doctor Strange.
Which we should be talking about Spider-Man.
I know.
And in point of fact, bring me pictures of Spider-Man. Let's just.
I saw a meme earlier that you reminded me of. It's you know that meme where it's the girl laying on her bed texting the guy, and the guy's texting back, and it's usually one of them wants thing A, the other is talking about thing B. It was the girl was laying in the bed and said, "Hey, did you get those sexy pictures I sent you?" And the second one was J. Jonah Jameson. He goes, "No, I wanted pictures of Spider-Man." But I mean, that's another recurring actor.
Which is where I was just gonna touch on this. In the original Raimi-verse, Spider-Man universe, the character was played by J.K. Simmons, who did
is phenomenal,
spot-on, perfect version of J. Jonah Jameson.
I'm pretty sure
looks like the character, was amazing.
Is definitively that character. If there was one actor who a character role was made for, it's him and Sam Jackson. I mean, but the new Nick Fury was literally modeled after Sam Jackson, so that's kind of a cheat. But no, J.K. Simmons, he is the definitive J. Jonah Jameson and will always be.
Right. And then they brought him back.
Yes.
They brought him back.
Well, and they once again, they modernized the character. Because before, he was the big wig at the Daily Bugle. Now he leads kind of a InfoWars, for lack of a better description, style podcast video show.
Yeah,
and I mean that's kind of what he is, but he's still very much Spider-Man as a menace, and it's great to see him coming back into that. I mean, into that role, which I love. Which I'm wondering, I would love nothing more with this new movie dealing with multiverses and bringing in past villains. I would love nothing more than for them to de-age J.K. Simmons, do up the hair and everything, make him look like his Raimi-verse J. Jonah Jameson. And have those two characters have a little bit of interaction where they look at each other, look at Spider-Man, look at each other. That's a menace! Like, it's something stupid and simple. I would love to see classic Jameson.
Considering Marvel's love to throw in nods to fans and everything else, what do you want to bet that they're gonna do up? They're gonna recreate that Spider-Man meme where there's just two Spider-Men pointing at each other.
Oh my god, I hope so. Which, okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room if we're going to talk about multiple Spider-Men now. It has been long rumored, and this is probably news to no one that's listening, but I still want to say it anyway. It has been long rumored that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are going to reprise their roles. The trailer gives no indication. I have watched it countless times. I have watched YouTube, literally frame by frame walkthroughs looking for everything they can. The trailer, and kudos to Marvel for this, they have given no inclination that those two actors are anywhere in this film. Now, I mean, both of them have publicly said, "No, I am not in this movie. Thank you for asking. No, I am not in this movie. Please stop asking." But at this point, I'm almost, part of me is almost worried that it's going to be another WandaVision where everybody is hyping themselves up for Mephisto, who was nowhere to be found. I'm worried that this is going to be another one of those things where everybody's hyping themselves up for 3 Spider-Men, and we won't see any of them. Now, do I think that will take away from the film? No. Do I think that'd be
it'll
really
a
freaking
mild
cool, though? Yes.
I think it'll be a mild disappointment for some of us, but
Yeah.
admittedly, I mean, we're already getting Alfred Molina as Doc Ock. We're theoretically getting Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin.
Yep. We are
You know,
more than likely getting Jamie Foxx as Electro.
right.
Yep.
So, I mean, we've got a good rogues gallery. We have probably, I mean, the only on-screen portrayal of Vulture, but the best one.
Yeah. I mean,
The best one that we could have gotten.
yeah.
So there's a lot. We're already getting a lot in this movie, and
Yeah.
what I'm fearful of is the curse of threes, where if you get too many villain subplot, it just ruins the movie. I mean, look at the amazing Spider-Man 3. Look at the Amazing Spider-Man 2, the Andrew Garfield version. They had Rhino, they had Electro. Didn't they have another one? Wasn't there another villain in that?
I truthfully, I don't remember the second Amazing Spider-Man, to be honest.
I don't
like.
remember
I liked
either.
the first one. I didn't care as much for the second one.
Well, I mean, admittedly, the first one also had Dennis Leary in it as Captain Stacy. So
you can't go wrong with Dennis. You know me. I like Dennis Leary.
Yes, yes. So I mean, there's a lot that's potentially going on with the next movie, and I think we can be happy in what we're going to get, and I think we just need to this is kind of I'm gonna soapbox for a little bit. The fandom out there, let's cut them a little slack. We're asking
a lot.
We as the fans are asking for quite a lot. We want a fantastic movie with all of these characters, with all of these working parts, and it's really hard to do.
I mean, yeah. I mean, for God's sakes, the final battle with Thanos, they had to split that into 2 films. I mean,
yeah.
Well, I mean, there's even fans who are going so far as to say, "Oh, well, the multiverse is opened up. Venom's going to be in the movie." It's like, maybe not. Oh, well, Morbius. They showed Spider-Man in that Morbius trailer, so Morbius is going to be in it. Probably not. I mean, you're stretching a little too. Mephisto. Okay, now we're just stop. There will never be Mephisto. All right. I know that there are multiple people who like they will die on the hill of Mephisto, but I don't
Hydro-Man.
Think... What?
Hydro-Man.
Okay, Hydro-Man. Okay. If we get Hydro-Man in this film, I want Kite Man in the next Batman movie. Kite Man. Hell yeah.
I mean,
Kite Man was the best part of the Harley Quinn show. Just saying. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot that we're kind of hoping for out of this movie, and so far, Marvel's had a pretty solid track record.
They have. Yep.
I don't want to jinx anything, and kind of going back to your comment about the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield thing, being nowhere nearby. I mean, Disney and their properties, Marvel, Lucasfilm have had they pulled a heckin' bamboozle on everybody in the last episode of The Mandalorian.
Yeah. Well, I mean, nobody knew that was going on. Well, I mean, heck, even the Infinity War and Endgame, they purposely edited the trailer to change up scenes that some of them were never actually in the film to keep fans surprised. So would it surprise me if they pulled one over on us on this film? Absolutely not. Marvel and Disney at this point know what they're doing in getting fans hyped, but not, putting all their cards on the table, as it were.
Yeah, and so there's a lot. There's several places that we can go with this. I'm hopeful for the new movie.
Absolutely. Yes.
There's been rumor going on that Sony and Disney are brokering another deal to actually get Venom into the MCU Spider-Man movie.
I too have heard that. I'm going to go ahead. Actually.
But there's nothing confirmed yet, and until we can get an official confirmation, whether that's a press release statement or simply him showing up in a movie, we can't. It's all speculation at this point.
Oh, absolutely.
All we can go off of right now is the fact that we will have Spider-Man.
Yep.
We will have Doc Ock, as played by Alfred Molina, and we will have Green Goblin. Those are the three.
Some Green Goblin. We haven't seen Willem Dafoe on screen.
Correct. But we know those three elements for sure.
Yep.
And that's it. Like that's all we can say we know for sure about this movie. We can speculate all we want to.
Now I'm going to put a quick little image up on screen here. We're talking about fan expectations versus reality. I'll also send you this image, Ian. This is what the fans are expecting. This is probably not what we're going to be getting, though. I do agree with you, Ian. I think that as fans, we do need to kind of temper our expectations a little bit. If the third Spider-Man movie is anything to go off of, based off the first two, it's still going to be a fun movie. It's still going to be, it's classic MCU stuff. But I don't think, even if we don't see the other Spider-Man, are people going to be disappointed? Yes. But I still think, in my opinion, the rest of the film is going to kind of counterbalance that. I mean, with it being a multiverse Spider-Man film, we are going to get some like fun little clever nods. I mean, look at what they did with Loki. I mean, the Thanos copter was in that. Marvel knows what to put in there to appease their fans and kind of give them like, hey, we haven't forgotten, the stuff that makes us who we are. So
because they know that all of us sitting there, all of us fanboys sitting there watching these shows, are basically looking like the DiCaprio sitting on the couch meme.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, pointing at the TV while we're watching it, going, "Oh my God, they did the thing! They did the thing! Or they did the thing! They did the thing!" So, I mean, and it's interesting because I was having a conversation with some friends of mine earlier this week, and they were both telling me, they're just over like the superhero thing right now. Like they're just over, they're done with like the superhero craze. They were, thought one of them was done with it like 8 years ago, and they were making the argument. Earlier this week that it's at this point it is daunting to try to get into the MCU. Like you can't just jump into it. You have to make a commitment to catch up.
Yeah. Because I mean, now, even if you start off like in, like phase 3 as an example, there's still so much stuff that happened beforehand that like, could you still watch it? Yes, but there's a lot of stuff like, okay, well, who is this character? Why are these two characters fighting? Who is this guy? That you'll miss a lot of that. And I mean, you can kind of piece it together as you go, but you do really lose. It'd be like starting a book in the middle and trying to piece it together from there. You can kind of get the gist of it, but you don't get the groundwork of it.
Yeah, and
I can see that.
I can totally appreciate that argument. I kind of my rebuttal to that though was essentially like, okay, well, do you watch TV series every season? Do you watch different TV shows every new season that comes out? Well, yes. Then what is the difference between starting at the beginning of the MCU and watching a movie every weekend versus watching you watch one MCU movie every weekend versus watching one episode of The Bachelor every week or something along those lines. A little bit long. I mean, longer, but I mean, we're in the era where people will just like binge an entire TV show in a day because they can. So, I understand the argument. Like the argument that the superhero thing is it's past its prime. Fine. I don't care. You're allowed your opinion. This is a very opinionated show.
Yes, we are.
I'm not going to fault you on that.
Yeah.
I still enjoy it. I still get a kicks out of it. My kids still enjoy it. They still love the movies, the shows. So, I'm going to keep feeding my fandom so long as they keep making good adaptations and films and TV shows and whatnot and so forth. I'll keep consuming that media because I'm a millennial. That is what I do. I sit on the couch, complain about boomers, and watch, piss away my life.
Well, I mean, it's kind of, you and I have said this multiple times on the show. Don't poo-poo on the things that other people like. Just let people enjoy their thing. If I want to spend hundreds of hours of my life watching the Marvel films, which I recently did. I went back and I've started watching them in chronological order, thanks to Disney Plus, which we are not sponsored by, but would love to be. They have the chronological listing on there, so you can watch them in order from timeline. And watching them that way gives you a different perspective on things, which was fun. But like I went back and I rewatched all of them within the last couple months.
Yeah.
And it was fun. Like, even the ones like, okay, Thor 2, a lot of people didn't really care for Thor 2. But what happened in that was still important to the overall story of, up to the Thanos fight. Um, Iron Man 3, that had a lot of stuff going on about it, but it was still a fun film.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all of these are even leading into future things. Like, just speaking to MCU films, I mean, we've got the new Spider-Man coming soon. We've got Shang-Chi coming out, which the first couple trailers, Shang-Chi is a character that I knew nothing about. I didn't even know that that was a character. When they announced it, I'm like, okay, well, I'll look into it. I'm like, okay, it's like a kung fu action thing. I'm like, well, I kind of like Iron Fist. He's not one of my top characters, but I thought it was neat. I'm like, all right, I'll look into this Shang-Chi thing and see what it is. After this last trailer, I'm like, okay, I want to see this movie. This looks good. It's different than anything else we've seen in the MCU up to this point. And honestly, I'm excited for that. I want to see it.
They're Fing Fang Foom.
Okay, like if they've shown that dragon in the trailer, and they said, okay, the dragon is not Fing Fang Foom. I want Fing Fang Foom though. Give me my space dragon.
Yeah, I mean it's a dragon, but they've got the whole 10 rings thing, and they're Mokluans.
Yep.
It's obviously a Mokluan, so it's technically a space dragon.
Yeah.
It's just not. It's
not the space dragon I want.
Right. It's not the space dragon you want. It's the space dragon you need.
He's not the space dragon this city deserves. He's the one we got or something. I don't remember the Batman quote. All right.
He's not. Yeah. He's
anyway.
Yeah. Anyway.
But no, it's now that we kind of talked about why we like these things and fans tempering their expectations. Let's go into full-on speculation territory of what we would love to see in Spider-Man. I mean, obviously, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. That's easily number one thing I want to see in that movie. Apart from that,
they've already given us the number 2 thing, which is Doc Ock, and then obviously a rendition of Green Goblin. We've been waiting for that character because again, we started the episode. Those are 2 iconic, probably the most iconic Spider-Man rogues in his rogues gallery. So I mean, we're getting some version of these, so that we don't have to speculate there.
Yeah.
I would love to see them.
I'd love to see, like, again, we're going into full-on, like, dream territory here. I would love to see Venom in this. Because Tom Hardy has said repeatedly, I would love to work with Tom Holland on Spider-Man. I would love to see him work with Tom Holland on Spider-Man.
Well, if he's not in this, then hopefully the whole Disney working out a thing to get Tom Hardy's Venom into the MCU will pan out.
Let's hope.
Yeah, let's hope there. And again, we don't know what the next Venom movie is going to hold in it either. Maybe it's actually even going to be a other way crossover where they will have Tom Holland's Spider-Man in the Sony universe.
See, and that is a fan theory that's going around. Is that this multiverse, apart from being an homage to the Spider-Verse movie, is also what Sony and Marvel have been working on in the backgrounds of sharing that character both ways. Giving him the ability to traverse the multiverse or opening up the multiverse so that they are all connected.
Yep.
Which that's a pipe dream. I mean, but like Morbius has confirmed from that trailer that Spider-Man exists in the same universe as Morbius. Which, correct me if I'm wrong, but they've said that Morbius is the same universe as Venom.
I believe so.
So, by roundabout logic, Spider-Man exists in the world of Venom.
Yep. So,
now that Spider-Man, though, looks to be Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, though. Which technically is a direct Sony thing. So, does that mean that, that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man exists in that universe? And if we get him in No Way Home, does that mean that is bridging that? I mean, again, we're going into full-on, like, dream, nerdgasm territory here. But who knows? Like, that's the thing with the multiverse, is they can literally go, all right, multiverse. Let's pull a Spider-Man that's a duck. And they could do it. Let's pull Venom. They could technically do it with a multiverse. Will they?
True.
eh,
True.
you know?
You know, we're talking about, you know, the pie in the sky stuff, the things
Yeah.
that the fan that we want to see. I myself would actually love to see Ghost Spider or Spider Gwen.
Yep.
I would love to have her in there. I think it would probably be too much.
Who would you
I
cast?
hmm, no, I thought. Oh crap! Now I can't remember her name.
That's
Emma
that's
Stone. I
that's
thought
the
Emma
theme of
Stone did a
tonight.
really good. I thought Emma Stone did a really
Mhm.
good Gwen Stacy.
Yes, I was gonna say
Um,
Emma Stone. I would love to see her because I mean, obviously she's a little bit older than Tom Holland, so it would be nice to see another character come in who's been doing the spider thing longer,
yeah.
you know, but I lest we forget that in the first Spider-Man Homecoming. We see a character played by, the one and only Childish Gambino himself, who that character is Miles Morales' uncle. And he even mentions in that movie that he has a nephew who is Miles Morales. So Miles, canonically, does exist in the MCU. Now, I don't think that they're going to go the route and, bring in Miles in this film and, get rid of Tom Holland. I don't think it's going to happen. But at least the groundwork has been set for. I mean, Tom Holland, he's still a young guy, still a very young guy.
Yeah.
So I imagine he can be playing Spider-Man for quite a while. But they at least have already set the groundwork, and that's one thing that Marvel has always done phenomenally well in their films is laying groundwork. Even things that you don't think are important now, and 7, 8 movies have a huge payoff. They have done a phenomenal job of that throughout the MCU.
Yeah, I would concur with that statement. Yeah, again, yeah, there's. I'd love to see Spider Gwen.
Yeah.
I mean, Ghost Spider is just kind of weird to say.
Right. Well, I mean,
To
look,
me, so
I think like canonically, isn't that what she's known as now?
yes,
Yeah.
that's what her character is known as now. Her original comics were known, like her original appearance comics were known as Spider Gwen.
Spider Gwen. Yeah.
Well, technically, her original appearance was in the Into the Spider Verse comics where she got pulled in, but then she spun off and got her own series
Yep.
that was titled Spider Gwen, but now she is Ghost Spider.
Yep.
I thought those comics were fantastic. I thought it was an amazing take on the character or on a character. It breathed new life into Gwen Stacy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Canonically, she'd been dead since like
ever
the 70s.
Yeah, she had been dead. Like she was one of the few characters that stayed dead, and stayed dead for a long time, and that was so central to that Peter Parker and his character development in those comics was that the whole thing with Gwen Stacy dying, and he lived with that guilt of, was she dead when Green Goblin threw her down? Did he snap her neck by throwing out the web?
Yeah.
He never knew.
Yeah, and I mean, in the comics at least, Spider Gwen is I mean, she's got a very similar, kind of origin arc.
Mhm.
She was best friends with Peter. She
Yep.
was the one that was bitten by the spider. Peter always felt, I think he knew,
Yep.
but he always, he still was always bullied and felt inferior, and so he's the one who developed the lizard serum,
Yep.
and became the first lizard, and wound up, dying in his fight with Spider-Gwen, and she was blamed for his death.
Yep.
Because he had reverted back from his lizard form, and she was there, and so they blamed her for the
Yep.
death of Peter Parker. And so she had to live with that,
Yeah.
because she blamed herself because Peter basically was jealous
Yeah.
of her abilities, and so she blamed herself, and that was a central component of her
Oh
character.
yeah, very much so.
Um, so, there's a lot. I mean, it'd be kind of fun if we got to see the Punisher.
See, well, okay,
Because admittedly, he first appeared in. I believe he first appeared in Spider-Man.
did he?
Uh-huh. I'm pretty sure his first appearance was Spider-Man. Let me look that up.
See, while you're doing that, my ultimate, like, if Marvel showed up on my doorstep and said we can do one thing for this, I would tell them, bring me Ryan Reynolds. I would love to, because of the multiverse, have this, because like Deadpool and Spider-Man, like they have one of the greatest bromances, because they're both like very similar characters.
Yes.
In the sense of how they interact with everybody around them. Is they're very, I mean, Deadpool's obviously Spider-Man turned up to 11 as far as his quips and how he interacts with people, but like I would love to see even if it's just like a post-credit scene of like you see multiversal portals closing if they happen to solve all this, and you see Deadpool walk by one and goes, "Hey guys, I'm," and the portal closes. I would love nothing more than that. Even that small thing, I would like be like weeping tears of joy at that point.
Right.
But well, I say while I'm thinking about it real quick, one other Marvel film that's coming out that I don't know if this will influence Spider-Man at all. Eternals. I just because I'm like I knew there was one more we were missing.
True.
Which we'll do an episode on Eternals, I imagine, because I have theories on that. But anyway, Punisher's first appearance.
So, Punisher's first appearance, I was correct. It is the Amazing Spider-Man number 129.
Okay.
I believe, actually, dear Timothy, that we have replica copies of this comic book because we were given them in our Wizard World grab bags when we went to Chicago one year. I still have it around here somewhere.
It's probably in my Credo comics.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I have it. But yes, he was originally appeared in Spider-Man number 129. It was the first appearance of the Punisher.
There we go.
So if the Punisher showed up, who would you want to be playing him?
Again, it's the night of not remembering names. The guy who played him in the TV show.
Oh crap.
Again, like we are horrible nerds tonight because we can't remember anybody's name.
John Bernthal?
Yes. Either him or Tom Jane. Because we need more.
Yeah.
We've got like 12 Chris's. We need some Toms in here now, all right?
Well,
we've got Tom Holland, Tom Hiddleston,
Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy. We need some more Toms. We got to round out the Toms with the Chris's, all right?
Right. We could do that, or they could go the completely off the wall and have Dolph Lundgren reprise.
Oh my God, Dolph Lundgren as an old Punisher. Oh my, I would actually be down for that. I would be down for Dolph doing that.
I would too.
Oh my gosh,
I absolutely would. That
amazing.
would be fantastic to me.
I mean, and there's also, I mean, if we're talking about stuff like this, there's also rumors that Matt Murdock, Daredevil, is going to be in this only as Peter's lawyer, though. Because in the comics, after Spider-Man's identity was revealed during the Civil War, the first Civil War in the comics, Matt Murdock was his attorney.
True.
Yep. So it would be, a nice homage to Peter's identity gets revealed, and who shows up at Daredevil.
Right.
And I want the Netflix Daredevil. That's him. That guy whose name also escapes me.
There is rumor that Marvel is going to be I don't know if continuing or rebooting that Daredevil series, and it will star that original Daredevil or that actor.
I know that it is heavily rumored that they are securing everything they need to put it on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I mean, they're already kind of getting a hold of a lot of those things. I mean, Netflix's license and everything else is run out, I think, for those shows. So, I mean, a lot of that stuff's getting pulled right now anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, Punisher would be fun. That one's it's a fun thing, but it's a very unlikely. I think it's probably as unlikely as Deadpool.
Yeah.
Admittedly.
I mean, don't ruin this for me.
But let's admit, though, Deadpool technically is part of the MCU now.
Yes,
because because Ryan Reynolds appeared as Deadpool in a commercial with Korg.
Yep.
The Korg from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, who was voiced by Taika Waititi, who directed Free Guy. He directed Free Guy.
Yeah.
But he also directed Thor Ragnarok and is directing the next one, Thor, what is it, Blood and Thunder?
Blood and Thunder, which I am excited for. I know that one's still a ways off. I can't wait for a trailer for that one.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, and then Taika Waititi also directed Free Guy.
Yep.
So, and he's such an off-the-wall character.
Oh, yes, he is.
Person, but he's so fun. directed several episodes of The Mandalorian.
Yep. Well, okay,
He's just
fun fact. I know we had talked 20 episodes ago now about we had mentioned redemption for actors, and and of course I had to bring up Green Lantern and Ryan Reynolds. Taika Waititi was in that with Ryan Reynolds, so they both went from being characters in a Green Lantern film to characters in the MCU. Successful characters
true.
in the MCU, mind you. I mean, granted, yes, Deadpool is air quotes here canon now. Um, I'm pretty sure Ryan Reynolds just took all the Deadpool suits home. I'm pretty sure he did because they even did a thing on for Free Guy because Ryan Reynolds plays another character in Free Guy, whose character's name is I can't even remember character's name now. Dude, I think because like he plays Guy, who's the main character, but then he plays another character who it's that same guy, but super buff and also played by Ryan Reynolds. They did it was like quote unquote behind the scenes thing where the running joke was that Ryan Reynolds really did beef up that much for the role. And like you see him, and it's obviously it's a body double with Ryan Reynolds' face on it, but you see him pick up the Deadpool suit and he's like holding it up to this massive like makes John Cena look small type body, which I had to look up to see if John Cena was the body double for him. It's not, as far as I know, but you see him like holding up the Deadpool suit, and he goes, "Yeah, the Deadpool suit doesn't fit anymore, but was it worth it? I mean, yeah. Look at these gains, And but so I'm pretty sure Ryan Reynolds just took the suits home, whether they wanted him to or not.
I think he actually has openly said that he did like make off with at least one of the suits.
Yep.
Uh, I imagine that makes for an interesting night with him and Blake Lively.
All right. Well, I need to log off now because I need to do some research. But no, I mean,
He's talking about Ryan Reynolds wearing just the Deadpool mask.
Yeah. No. The mask stays on. But no, I mean, it's No Way Home is definitely. I mean, to kind of round it back out here, No Way Home is definitely going to be a MCU film unlike anything we've seen up to this point, which, in my opinion, is going to be a good thing because we're into Phase 4 now, or 5 or 8. I don't even know at this point. I think it's 4.
I think it's Phase 4.
Phase 4.
Yeah, I think it's 4.
I mean, in up to this point, phases 1 through 3, we're building up, Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet saga and all of that stuff. It seems like now, at least at the get go here, the multiverse and alternate versions of characters, variants, if you will, if you've seen our Loki episode, are all going to play, at least in the beginning here, pretty heavily. I see you glaring at me, Ian. That's a shameless. That's a shameless plug, is what that is. But I think at least in the beginning of Phase 4 here, the multiverse is going to play very heavily into how things get set up from here going forward. I mean, it's a pretty obvious thing to say, but it's where we are.
Yeah, no, I would concur. So there's a lot going on. There's going to be a lot going on.
Absolutely.
Not only in Spider-Man, the next Spider-Man movie, but in the MCU in general. There's a lot going on right now, and they're just kind of laying the groundwork. Like they're just laying the foundation for this phase of the MCU.
Yep.
So I think we're gonna be in for a ride.
Absolutely.
We're gonna see a lot happen in this universe. The universe is being turned on its head. We're gonna see universes get conquered. So you know, there's going to be a long road ahead, and I think it's going to be a fun one.
Oh, absolutely.
If they can pull this movie off correctly, the same way that they pulled off Loki,
oh yeah,
if not better, then we're in for a wild ride.
Oh yeah. It's gonna be worth it. I mean, even if this film is horrible, which I don't think it will be, Marvel has a pretty solid track record at this point. Even if the movie doesn't meet our expectations, I still think it's going to be an enjoyable film, and it's going to be great to finally get all this multiversal stuff that we've been seeing in their shows tying more into the movies. Which, I mean, again, the shows and the movies are all connected, but it's going to be nice to see that once again on the big screen, laying the groundwork. And with the shows as kind of a supplemental thing, this is a good time to be a Marvel Cinematic Universe fan.
Yep, I would concur. Well, I think that's going to do us right around at time. That's a good send off
Oh yeah.
from Sir Timothy. So, with that, we thank you for joining us tonight on this, spin around the Spider Verse. As you know, as we're swinging from topic to topic.
I'm kind of sad
Uh,
we didn't have more spider related puns throughout the show.
I mean, we just kind of got stuck in a web of different things going on here. And it was, we'd get stuck on from topic to topic. It was almost like we were just wrapped up in it. Um,
You're trying too hard now. I'm sorry, Ian.
yeah, I am. I am trying too hard. Anyway, thank you for joining us. You can catch us on all of your favorite social media and, well, at least the major social media and podcast hosting sites. You can find us on anchor.fm. That is our hosting platform. Thank you, Anchor. We are also available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and 5 or 6 other places. Find us on social media at Non Sequitur Nerd on Twitter and Facebook.com/Non Sequitur Nerds.
We're there.
Yes, we are.
We're everywhere.
Because we're in the multiverse. All right, now that we're done with our level of stupidity for the evening, we hope that you all have a wonderful night. And yeah, I think we'll catch you later.
All right, have a good night, everybody.
All right. Bye.
Bye.